In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jah Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jah Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jah Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jah Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.
Good morning on Thursday, the 20th of March 2025. It's 8 a.m. in the Gambia, and therefore coffee time on West Coast Radio with me, Peter Gomez. On YouTube, we started out with Jah Oil. I'm pleased to announce that we now have Wave also supporting our presence on YouTube. Thank you for joining us.
Sila jam si Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do dede. Luta mo nulo jel mo to nga andil mahalis. Hello?
Bisul mo fine.
What?
Bisul mo fine.
Oh. Yes!
Wave Axina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave. Bisul mo fine? Wave. Your money is yours.
Hamad Ngagne Kumbaba at the National Assembly. He is questioned about government hesitancy in appointing a paramount chief. We'll talk elections as well. A group of CSOs do not agree with ruling party and pro-government lawmakers' interpretation of the 1997 Constitution, the alleged misunderstanding of which led them overwhelmingly to vote against out-of-country or diaspora voting. And final preparations are underway for an important leadership election at the highest institute of learning in our country. We also have the Thursday papers front pages, and the guest, contrary to my announcement at the end of Wednesday's program, is Lamin Manneh of the UDP, not Hamidou Jah of Jah Oil, very important contributors to this program. Jah Oil is actually penciled in for Monday, not today. I don't know what got over me yesterday. Anyway, going by what Mamadou Sabali said on this program last week as we discussed the Masembe by-election, henceforth, we should be introducing Lamin Manneh as Assistant Foreign Minister in the UDP cabinet because, first of all, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Peter.
I don't know why I always, have you back on the program when you went to the wrong school.
You're aspiring to go back to that school. It's too late, so
never accept it. But just going back, I'm just making this point that, you should be seen as Assistant Foreign Minister. Because according to Mamadou Sabali, who used to be with your party when we discussed the Masembe by-election result last week, the whole UDP cabinet, even you were named, went to Masembe to lobby for a victory.
That's very generous of him, but the UDP cabinet will be decided in January 2027. I might not be on that cabinet. That's something that will be for Mr. Dabo to choose. So, but yeah, it's good. We were there. We were there because they were out there in full force.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Fuller than he would admit?
Much more. I mean, they had ministers. The C.D. Keita was there. Samatia was there. Sabali was there, etc., etc. They had ministers. They had their presidential advisors. Even ambassadors were hauled in from their positions abroad.
Really?
To come and campaign.
For just a ward?
Exactly. They brought in everybody. I mean, the quadrangle moved to Masembe. You wake up in the morning, you find the V8, Prados all over the place, and Land Cruisers. They were all over the place.
Gas-guzzling cars.
Exactly. So just the fuel consumption of those cars during that period, plus the staff hours lost, was something else. For a municipal, not even a municipal award by election, but for them it was a referendum. So they had to be there and to show force and to tell the country that, we can win in 2026. And they fell flat on their face.
Mm-hmm. And how important was the UDP win? I mean, Sabali says you only retained. You people won nothing. Yeah. You only retained that which you won years back.
You see, because they couldn't pull it off, so they have to downplay it. They went there in full force to win that election because they know it's critical. The optics of it, what it tells the world, the Gambia, they want to make sure that they can say, you know what, we can win 26, here it is. They went there, they did everything, and they lost. When they knew they were losing, they started trying to pick a fight. So the elections don't happen. We said, we are not here to fight.
Oh, that happened?
Oh, yes. So
how did they try to pick a fight?
I mean, they were, in these things we have itineraries. Every party is told you can be at a certain place at a certain time of the day, and you have to leave by this time. They overstayed, in a number of places, wanted us to be there so we can have a confrontation. We said, no, we're not coming. We'll wait. When you come out, we will. And eventually, the last one, when they came out, they just parked in the middle of the road, and they wouldn't let our people pass.
And
it's provocation.
What should the IEC have done in this case?
Exactly.
What should they have done?
The IEC should have called them to order. Say you had until midday to be in Jasobo. Why are you there by 4 p.m.? And you should have sent a delegation out there to ask them to leave. But it didn't happen. They overstayed for 4 hours. And when they were coming out, they came in the middle of the road, and they just wouldn't let our people pass. It became a confrontation, which almost, became a physical fight. So people had to restrain our supporters to make sure that we do not fall for that trick.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Lamin Manneh is with us for the whole hour. Now, in the past, I would sacrifice the newspaper review whenever I introduce a guest from the get-go. But my senior colleague and the Point co-founder, Papsen, a man I have very high regard for, has talked me out of the practice. So let's quickly do the papers, starting with Ferry. Judiciary rejects Afrobarometer survey findings. Government spends $10.5 million monthly on ferries maintenance. Government clears farmers' debts nationwide amid challenges with digital payment. WATAF honors GRA leadership with CG Dabo and DCG Jallo recognized for outstanding contributions to tax administration. Borakoli's coroner's inquest fails to proceed. CSOs demand reinstatement of diaspora voting rights, and BCC's media payments under scrutiny at Inquiry Commission. Next, we have the Voices front page. Hamat says Lands Ministry faces challenges over demarcation of Dasilame border. Taxis are government's lifeblood, says CG Dabo. Monthly maintenance cost of Kunta Kinte and Kanilai ferries stands at $10.5 million, reveals Minister Silla. CSOs call for granting of voting rights to Gambians overseas. BCC PRO admits handing $95,000 to mayor's protocol officer on mayor's instructions. National Assembly member Ba says takeover of McCarthy Square contradicts principles of decentralization, and Gambia reviews Convention on Enforced Disappearance report. Here now is the front page of The Point. Government admits delay in identifying 3,000 Gambians meant for U.S. deportation. WATAF honors Yankuba Dabo for tax governance. Father who allegedly kidnapped twins arraigned. Ex-deputy PRO admits raising vouchers totaling over $2 million on behalf of BCC Mayoress. Kanilai Ferry to start operations in April, as Minister explains, delay. Court admits contested substance as evidence despite defense objections. And CSO Coalition demands reinstatement of diaspora voting. Next, the Standard. Mayor says OP's action is a siege against Banjul. CSO Coalition calls for diaspora voting to be restricted to presidential elections. Gambian migrants among 6 dead and 40 missing in Mediterranean shipwreck. Suspect in Brikama twins abduction remanded. Man sues Nawek for alleged trespass. CG Dabo receives prestigious Wataf Award, and BCC Assistant PRO explains multiple cash requests. And finally, the bi-weekly Gambia Daily. Gambia and Iran start new phase of diplomatic relations. UN Peacebuilding Fund Assistant SG hails Gambia as a renowned model for effective transitional justice system. Senegal's Mariam Sy assumes ambassadorial designation in the Gambia. Fire ravages household in Sandu, and victims lament lack of fire rescue service nearby. And Gambia recommits to addressing enforced disappearances and justice for victims. And that's today's newspaper review. Our thanks to Foraya, The Standard, The Point, The Voice, and the Gambia Daily. Now, Lamin Manneh is with us. Let's just take certain headlines and look at them. Government spends $10.5 million monthly on ferry maintenance.
Yeah.
Something is missing there. How much are they making from these ferries?
Absolutely. How much are they making, and why are they putting $10.5 million monthly after all they spent to refurbish those ferries? It's becoming a black hole. You know, just pumping money in there and nothing comes out of that.
Yeah, my worry is...
But if you are putting $10.5 million per month in the ferry, what are you able to put aside? How much are you making per month?
Yeah, and that's my worry, because Sidi Keita, the finance minister, when he was on the program last week, said all people look at when a budget is presented is the spending.
Yeah.
They don't consider, the revenue generation, revenue mobilization. But if all ministers do, when they go to the National Assembly, is to tell us how much they are spending, and actually they don't tell us how much they are making, we have every right to see this, to even see it as a spending government.
Absolutely. And Peter,
Because when I use the ferry, I've never used the ferry free. Never in my life.
Never.
So the money I give, the ferry service, how do they account for it?
How do they account for it? And how do they account for the other revenue that comes into the ferry every month? You see, this is how they push those companies into deficit. And then they complain that they are not doing well, and then they go to privatize them. It's too easy. Push them into the wrong way, or just condone wrongdoing, and then you say, oh, they are doing so badly, you have to privatize them. Why? I heard CDK talk about NTC, about what other companies did he mention? He mentioned quite a number of companies, the GPMB, and all of those companies that went bust. They went bust because they were poorly managed. I mean, a distribution company like NTC should never have gone bust if it's properly managed. So why do you sit by and wait for it to go bust? Why do you allow the ferry service to spend $10.5 million?
They can't account for NTC or GPMB. No. What they can account for, the port that is now going to, foreign management, the Senegambia Bridge that is going to foreign management. I think this is a conversation to be had. Yeah, I'm talking of the trend of all the state-owned enterprises which are allowed to go bankrupt so that you can privatize them. Today, we are seeing this in the ferry services. Now, part of the ferry service is being outsourced to NEGMA, right? And before long, the whole thing might just go. Everything is going because you allow them to go bankrupt through poor management, through poor oversight, and then you complain that they are gone bust. When they can be making money, they should be paying dividends to the state. I mean, Gamtel was paying dividends to the state and virtually financing the civil service. Yeah. Why can't we do the same? There are so many other Bakarinjais in the country. Mohammed Manjang was brought to the country, and he turned Social Security around in less than 2 years. It made huge profits, and the payments to the retirees was increased, etc., etc. It can be done. It just needs proper management.
The private sector that comes in to buy those companies use the same talent. Why don't you get those talents and bring them into those companies and make them run like state-owned enterprises? Make them work as businesses.
And you ask your question, some of them, how much do they come with? Secure report, for instance.
Exactly.
I mean, this is a conversation to be had all the time.
All the time. Because we have to call out the wrongdoing, the corruption, the lack of oversight. And here I have to call out Parliament. Why is Parliament allowing all of these things to happen? They should be calling these people and asking them to explain. Look, Social Security shouldn't be having issues. Today, what do we have? He was saying that the government did not intervene in the loan, $9 million loan to GTSC to buy cars, to buy buses for. Come on. Later on, he said Barrow nudged them in that direction. Barrow should not be nudging them in that direction. Government should not be involved in management decisions of the Social Security. This is pension funds. And he talked about corporate social responsibility, but it's a Social Security. The corporate social responsibility, the profits you make and the windfalls are supposed to be plowed back into the fund so that you pay pensioners more money and make them more comfortable. I sat on the staff retirement plan of the African Development Bank for almost 3.5 years until when I retired. We were managing over $1 billion and we were investing it. The steering committee, which I sat on, which was the board, we managed every aspect of it. The funding, the collection of revenue from the staff, and the investment. We managed everything, and the ADB was not involved, except they had a vice president of finance who sat on the steering committee, and he was just one of many members. So we took those decisions and protected the Social Security Fund, Staff Retirement Fund, which is why today we are getting comfortable payments, retirement payments. And the Gambia can do the same thing. You do not have any right to put money, Social Security funding, into it's not even assets, into goods like vehicles. These are perishables. Not long ago, we had that there was a fire at the depot, and about 10 or 20 buses got burned down.
But those were scraps. Those were scraps that somebody had purchased, and in the process of evacuating the scraps while cutting them, they caught fire. So that was
what I'm saying
of zero loss to.
What I'm saying that fire could have spread, and could have had a lot of repercussions on the remaining fleet.
Thank God it didn't.
It didn't, fortunately, but it could have.
Fantastic. Let's move on. We're still looking at select headlines from the papers, and I'm looking at BCCPRO admits handing $95,000 to mayor's protocol officer on the instructions of the mayor, and this is on today's The Voice newspaper. Now, for a very long time, the UDP touted the mayors, the chairpersons of local government areas where they won as examples of how the country should be run. This was before the advent of the Local Government Commission. But clearly, I mean, there's more than meets the eye. What we are hearing now really is something to be ashamed of. They haven't always acquitted themselves in the manner we thought before the advent of the Local Government Commission.
A lot has come out during this commission, but we saw that most of it has been on the part of the government-appointed officers, the CEOs, the finance directors, etc., etc. Now, what they are saying about the mayor of Banjul, I think it should be really looked into and see whether that is the actual truth of what's happened, etc. Because at this point, they're still investigating. We wait and see what happens at the end. UDP has always been, we have zero tolerance for corruption, and we wouldn't support it or condone it from any quarters. But here, what we have for the moment is the investigations are going on. Let's wait until we hear from the mayor and other people and see, and then the evidence builds up. And then, at this point, it's just circumstantial evidence.
Okay.
Let's wait and see what happens.
But is what you're hearing worrying to the party?
It is worrying.
Okay.
It is worrying because we are zero tolerance for corruption, wherever it comes from. So we wait and see what happens here. Okay.
Let's move on to the point. Kanilai Ferry to start operations in April as Minister explains delay.
Yeah.
People in Barra in the North Bank must be laughing because let's say it straight. I mean, the situation of the ferries is a big embarrassment to this government.
Absolutely.
And I sit here, I talk to government officials, I get promises, the ferries will be available this time, and every promise has been broken, and every time they kick the can down the road.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah.
Exactly, because they never have any plans to implement those promises to make them to come true.
On the Ferry issue, really, they must be, you know, they have to be ashamed of.
We have been
what
hearing that for the past 2-3 years, with no results happening. You know, and they will tell you how these guys were buying engines left, right, and center for those ferries and maintenance. I even heard that once they bought a bus engine for the ferry. You know, how true that is, we don't know, but I mean, something is definitely going wrong. Why are we having these problems becoming recurrent? And every time they just kick it down the road.
I'm trying to
and you know, the minister sits here and tells us we're going to have 2 solar-powered ferries this year. And now he says, oh yeah, we're going to have one, you know, in December. December, they will push it further down the road.
On the issue of the ferries, they really need to sit down, look each other straight in the eye, and honestly address the issue.
It's not just
coming
ferries.
out in public and promising and shifting all the time does not help.
It's not just the ferries, it's every single thing. And they just keep saying it, and they believe that we will not remember, our memories are fickle, so we will forget next time they can tell us something else. But in this day and age, it's all there on the internet. People go pick them up, pick it out, and then, you know.
Let's move on to the standard. Mayor says OP's action is a siege against Banjul. I mean, this thing about Makati Square being taken over by the office of the president.
Peter, that's the lawlessness. The president and his people can just sit and do whatever they like. They believe that the country belongs to them. You can do what you like and get away with it. This is the impunity, you know. And this is what we've been complaining about. You cannot just sit there and do what you like. This is supposed to be a rules-based country with the rule of law. We are governed by laws, not by people's whims. The president's office cannot just sit and take over properties that have been assigned to local authorities.
They've taken over the state.
What is the decentralization supposed to be serving? What purpose? If you find that piece of real estate in Banjul is poorly managed,
I was coming to that.
Sit and discuss it with the mayor's office and find solutions.
Especially when we now hear that the mayor can ask for millions without justification as to how those millions are used.
Well,
when you have a state asset that they should be caring for, being allowed to fall into ruins. I mean, really, we have to look at, when we talk about administration, it's not just at central government level, even at local government level.
No, it's local government level as well, but also you have to remember that the government is supposed to provide 60% of the development budget of those local government authorities, and they never do. So the local government authorities are working on a shoestring budget most of the time. So government has a big responsibility on all of those situations. So when you have other issues in the municipality to deal with, probably maintaining the park is not your topmost priority. We have been having issues of roads in Banjul, issues of flooding, issues of dumping raw sewage into the sea. What is the government doing about that? And they are responsible for that. See, you have all of these issues in Banjul. Why don't you help the local authority handle those issues instead of just sitting there and then smugly blaming them? And it's too easy. This is part of their responsibility to Banjul. It's the capital city. So it's not just Banjul City Council that's supposed to run it, but the state as well. They have a share of responsibility.
And they house the president anyway.
Exactly.
and all the...
are they paying rent? Are they paying rent to BCC for State House?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That is something we should...
Exactly.
Rohi Malik Low, you should tell us about that.
Yeah.
We spoke about this naturally yesterday on the program, and we are getting very positive signals after the ping pong, on the program. Somebody saying, OP has no right. OP saying the asset never belonged to BCC. Of course, we hear now there's mediation, and it will all end, happily.
We hope common sense prevails.
Absolutely. Common sense will prevail.
We hope so.
We are privy to certain information.
Good.
Finally, to the Gambia Bi-Weekly, which, as you know, is always pro-government, but there's always, a bot to find in every line. Fire ravages household in Sandu, and victims lament lack of fire rescue service nearby. Honestly, the fire and rescue service is the Cinderella of the security sector, if you ask me.
The correlation.
We hear that since the Jawara era, right up to now, a brand new fire engine has never been acquired for the Gambia. It started out as fire brigade.
Yeah.
Now it's Gambia Fire Rescue
Service.
Rescue Service, whatever. You know, can you imagine?
Yeah.
In how many years of this important institution, not once did the state buy one single brand new. We are just dependent on handouts. We go to England and beg for fire engines, and what do they give us?
Old, used, discarded fire service vehicles. Yet these people can spend $1.080 billion to buy 89 cars for a 2-day OIC conference. Could that part of that money not being used to buy vehicles for the fire service?
Definitely.
For the ambulance services?
I always give the story. You know? Once, after spending time away from this country, I was so happy to be heading back home. As we started descending, the plane, flew up again.
Exactly.
And the explanation was we can't land in Banjul because there's no fire engine on the ground.
There you go.
And I'm saying there's no fire engine on the ground. And there's a brand new, or maybe a couple of brand new fire engines at State House.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah, not the first time I'm saying this.
And
so
if it's not the fire service vehicles not available, is electricity not available, etc. Why? You see, the misplaced priorities, Peter. I mean, take any 2 or 3 of those vehicles that they bought for the OIC summit, you can buy a fire service vehicle. Government
really needs,
but they do not prioritize
to look at our fire and rescue service.
I heard a lady who was among the top managers of the fire service when there was a fire outbreak in Brikama saying exactly what you just said there, that they have not received a single vehicle from government for decades and they are struggling. You know, if she can stand up and say that because she's so frustrated, she doesn't care what, she has to say it. Somebody has to call them out.
All right.
Why can't they do it right?
Lamin Manneh is with us right up to the top of the hour. And that's today's newspaper review, a very special one. Thanks to, again, to Ferry, The Standard, The Point, The Voice, and The Gambia Daily.
Gambia Milling Corporation addani on Eco 65 offering amen mo fewnira he chondi ɓurdini moƴƴu to GMC kala saku fering Eco 65 mbo waɗa 45 mbo yaadi he vitamins he mineraluji moƴƴuɗi manam ina laara lartinda ha laaɓi mbo woni high quality ɓurɗo moƴƴu.
It's Thursday, the 20th of March, 2025. I am Peter Gomez, and live on West Coast Radio, it's coffee time. Lamin Manneh is our guest. He's an opposition politician serving in the executive organ of the United Democratic Party, which holds the second largest number of lawmakers in the National Assembly. Now, on Wednesday, that Legislative Assembly required the Minister of Land, Regional Government and Religious Affairs, the irrepressible Hamad Ngany Kumba Ba, to appear before it to answer some questions about his ministry and its functions. Honorable Ba duly appeared, and as you know, sparks always fly when Hamad and lawmakers get together. Esaba reports.
Land ownership is a contentious issue in the Gambia, with conflicts occasionally escalating into violence, which at times lead to even loss of lives. These disputes in most cases are between locals and real estate owners or the state authorities, with a classical example being the 2018 Faraba incident that led to casualties. However, the Ministry of Lands, Regional Government and Religious Affairs in 2023 committed to overcome all land disputes in the country and ensure proper land management before 2026. One of the steps taken since then is the development of a land policy. When asked by the member for Brikama South, Honorable Lamin to update the Assembly on the stage of preparation of this policy, Honorable Ahmad Bah, Minister of Lands, made this announcement.
I am happy to report to this August Assembly that consultation leading to the consultation and formulation of the national land policy across length and breadth of the country are successfully completed. A draft national land policy 2026-2035 has since been prepared, and copies of which have been and continue to be circulated to all stakeholders with a view to getting their final inputs and feedback so as to guide the finalization of the policy. To this end, A national validation of the policy is slated for 9th of May 2025, of which you, the honorable members, all of you be invited to attend.
This policy, when formulated, is expected to reduce violence and restore citizen trust on land matters. Quizzed again by the member for Brikama South, but this time on behalf of the member for Brikama North, Minister Ba was forced to give a response on what is still holding the appointment of a paramount CFO by the President.
I am pleased to inform this August Assembly that after a careful review of all the issues surrounding the office of the paramount CFO, there are currently no plans by the government for the President to appoint a paramount CFO.
As referenced by the questioner, Section 131B 1 and 2 of the Local Government Act 2002 provides that there shall be a paramount CFO in the Gambia who shall be appointed by the President from among CFO in the Gambia for a period of 2 years on a rotational basis. However, since the advent of the Barrow government and after the then paramount CFO, the late Alhaji Demba Sanyang, none has been appointed, the question highlighted.
Honorable Minister, but this is a law, and if there is no plan and you are the minister directly responsible for advising the President on policy issues, don't you think that you should have engaged the President on this issue because it's a law?
I may agree with you, Honorable Member. I want to further add that if you have anybody that you have in mind to be paramount chief, you let me know.
Third response by the Lands Minister was not received well by some members of Parliament, with one of them, Honorable Yaya Sanyang, member for Latrikunda Sabiji, calling for the resignation of the Lands Minister for failing to execute the mandatory self-provisions of the Act.
Honorable Minister, failing to execute the mandatory self-provision of our laws, are you ready to resign as Minister of Local Government and Lands?
Mr. Speaker, I told the Honorable Member earlier that I'm going to comply and further requested that if there is anybody in his mind that can be recommended in my process of doing what I am supposed to do in that direction, let him forward it to me. I'm saying that we will endeavor to do exactly what the law has said. And I think that closes the chapter.
When asked to provide a possible timeline for this appointment, this was the minister's response.
Speaker, I want to inform the Honourable Member for Kiang West, I cannot give you a timeline. I'm not responsible for appointing. I'm only to recommend. The issue of appointment lies on the President. So I'm only to recommend, and I cannot give you a timeline. I don't dictate the agenda of the President.
Meanwhile, Honorable Ibrahim Silla, Minister of Transport, Works and Infrastructure, also appeared before the lawmakers to respond to questions related to his ministry. Minister Silla was asked to update the Assembly about the signed contract for the purchase of the 2 new green ferries by the Gambia government a couple of months ago.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Speaker, please be informed that the contract signed for the 2 new green ferries were to be financed in 2 different ways. One through the African Development Bank grant of 85% and to GPA with 15% counterpart contribution by the authority, while the second one was for 100% buyer credit financing by the Gambia Ports Authority. The first one is at an advanced stage of construction to be delivered by end December 2025 as per the contractual milestones. As for the second one, the financing structure is currently being finalized, and it is hoped that it will be concluded for delivery after 6 months of the first delivery in 2025.
The Minister further said that he is hopeful that the Banjul ferry services can go for 24 hours operation when the 2 new ferries are added to the Kunta Kinte and Kanilai ferry that is still under maintenance. Responding to an earlier question, the Minister explained the reasons for the delay in maintenance of work of the Kanilai ferry, but is hopeful that the ferry will begin operation by the 2nd week of April.
We were hopeful that the Kanilai ferry will start operation before the quarter prayer. Why delays for another extra 2 weeks?
Well, actually, the vessel that's supposed to bring the propulsion systems actually was somehow delayed in Cotonou because the cargo actually came through Brussels, and no, from not Cotonou but Douala.
Reporting for West Coast Radio, I am Esaba.
Thank you very much, Esa. Lamin Manneh is our guest. He is from the UDP. The ferries came up in Esa's report.
Yeah.
And Silla was there, of course, to provide explanation.
Yeah, the same thing, kicking down the down the road. Silla told us that the ferries will be available this year, 2 solar-powered. He was specific, not just green. 2 solar-powered ferries financed by the ADB. Now he's saying, one of them is going to be financed partly by the ADB, part by Gambia Ports Authority. The goalpost is moving every single time. When he said it, I say it's not true. I came to check out the ADB sites and everything. I don't find anything. Say, give us proof that you are being financed by the ADB. And by the other day, I heard him say on Kerfatu that one is going to be available in December and the next one in 26. It won't happen. He thinks we'll forget. And December, there was a technicality, there was a delay in construction, etc. And then you're just kicking the can down the road every single time.
Well, let's just pray that we are all alive in December to see whether there's going to be a ferry or not.
Yes, we pray for that, but when that time comes, there won't be any ferry. We're getting used to this by this government making promises that they never have any intention of keeping.
Before Silla, my good friend Haman Gany Kumbaba, Silla is also a good friend. And on this issue of Paramount Chief, how important is it? I mean, it doesn't seem to be an issue with the opposition.
No, it's not an issue because this is a law that was passed, and until it's repealed, it should be enforced. Now, he tells us that no, there are no plans for the president to appoint one, and then immediately afterwards he said, well, he just recommends, there will be something, which is which? Is he going to be appointed or not? They just don't seem to understand even what they're talking about themselves, or they don't just care because they think we can't understand. We're listening, we hear what they say.
And to be in office for close to 8 years and not, take action on what is law.
Yeah.
That has to be serious.
And then you pass it as something, it's there, but we're not going to implement it. We have no plans to implement it as of now. The president is not going to do it. And then you try
that's what it translates. So we don't seem to know any candidate. If you have, because this seemed to be the conversation between Hamad Ba and the questioner. Yeah. If you know anybody, tell us.
But just before he said they weren't going to do it anyway. And then when he was pressed, he said, if you know one, that's not supposed to be the MP's job. That's the minister's job. He's supposed to discuss with the president and find people and recommend. How many chiefs are there in the country? He can't just find one to recommend. But he tells you, the president has no plans to do it. And then the next minute he say, okay, recommend somebody to, which is which. They don't seem to be, to care about anything concerning this country. Just do what they want when they want to, and they move on.
Yeah, with Coffee Time on West Coast Radio, I am Peter Gomez. On YouTube, we now have Jah Oil and Wave sponsoring efforts. We're still looking for more sponsors because the more we make, the more we have to improve the service. Just as we have done with radio, we want to do with YouTube as well. The program is brought to you.
Excellent jam, Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do dede. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Bisul mu fay.
What?
Bisul mu fine.
Oh. Yes!
Wave Axina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. At Wave. Bisul mu fine? Wave. Your money is yours.
Jah Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jah Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
Now, 2026, as I'm sure you know, is election year in the Gambia, and there's a huge vacancy in the country's electoral body, the Independent Electoral Commission, that must be tackled ahead of the December 2026 presidential poll. But just as important, perhaps, as finding an IEC leader, is the vexing question of Gambian citizens abroad voting in Gambian elections from their respective countries of residence. It's been a hot talking point since ruling party and pro-government National Assembly members voted to block the latest effort to make out-of-country voting possible. And in a determined drive to make diaspora voting possible ahead of 2026, a coalition of CSOs is lobbying the very MPs who voted against to change their mind about the legislation and ensure its passing during the current sitting of the National Assembly. Abubakar M. Jallow will tell us first about the CSO's press conference, and after that, Bubakar Sow reports on a big election at the UTG, now only 24 hours away. And after that, I'll get the thoughts of my guest on some of the issues raised in the reports.
Gambia participate the Election Watch Committee, the Edward Francis Small Center for Rights and Justice, and concerned Gambians at home and in the diaspora. On Wednesday, held a press conference on Parliament's decision to omit Clause 14 of the Election Bill 2021, which caters for Gambians living abroad to vote in public elections. In response to these matters, they highlighted Clause 14 aligns with the 1997 Constitution and the 2021 Supreme Court ruling. They added that Clause 14 does not contradict Section 39, rather it provides legal guidelines for the IEC to register diaspora voters on the existing constituencies, ensuring their participation without requiring new ones. The National Assembly directly violates Section 39 of the Constitution, which guarantees voting rights to all citizens.
The University of the Gambia is set to hold its highly anticipated student union elections tomorrow, with students preparing to cast their votes to elect new leaders. Ahead of the elections, the two presidential aspirants and the chairperson of the Independent Electoral Commission spoke to Coffee Time at the UTG Student Union Convention held on Wednesday at the Gambia College Main Hall. Speaking on the elections preparations, the IEC chairman, Lamin assured students of a transparent and credible voting process. Excitement is building on the university campus. Students are ready to make their voices heard and choose leaders who will shape the future of their union. The election is expected to draw a significant voter turnout, with students eager to see who will emerge victorious. Reporting for West Coast Radio, I am Bubakar Sow.
Thank you, Bubakar. Thank you, Abubakar. On the issue of elections, before we get to the vacancy in the IEC, it's an opportunity to ask you what you make of this diaspora voting debate.
The diaspora voting is a disgrace, really, in the activities of Parliament. How on earth could you just sit and decide to disenfranchise so many Gambians? By all indications, close to 500,000 Gambians live outside the country. Some put it at 300,000, some at 400, 500, 600. We hear everything. But let's just even assume it's even 100,000 Gambians. How on earth could you sit there in the National Assembly and decide to disenfranchise those people? They have a right to vote in this country and to be elected. And we tend to forget even to be elected.
Well, the information minister says nobody is stopping them from voting. If they come back to the country, nobody will stop them from voting.
Yeah, that's why I say it's a disgrace, that he could sit there and say that. The government and the IEC are supposed to facilitate and make sure that they can exercise their rights as Gambians to vote and be elected. The IEC has every possibility to draw up new constituencies as they have done in the past. We were about 30 MPs in this country just after independence, etc., and it's kept growing to 53 today.
And it could be more.
Who does that? They can demarcate new constituencies, one. Two, most importantly, for the presidential election, there are no constituencies that you need to register anybody into. So you can just register them and they vote from wherever they are. The excuse I hear is, the marble voting would not be operational abroad. We can have a hybrid system.
There's even a global shortage of marbles.
Yeah.
I mean, who makes those things anyway? There are no marble games anymore being played by people. Everybody plays games online. Exactly.
Yeah, but if you order them, they will happily make them for you. But we can have a hybrid system of voting because the system of voting is very useful in this country.
Well, actually, Honorable Madi Sise, when we were discussing this, he sent a message to say that actually the Constitution allows for that hybrid system.
Yes. And you can have that hybrid voting abroad, where you can use paper ballots.
Or the electoral law. It must be the Election Act, not the Constitution.
Election Act, yes. You can have that and have the voting abroad. But if you want to, even the marbles, you can have it transported there and do the elections. It's just a question of will. Where there is a will, there is a way. They just don't want to do it because they fear that the diaspora will vote against them. And that is no excuse to disenfranchise.
Modus Sabali disagrees. Modus Sabali says if the diaspora were given the vote, up to 95% of it will vote for the ruling party.
I don't want to discuss those ones, but the diaspora is there. If you are not afraid of diaspora voting, why don't you allow them to vote? And the thing is, you should be.
They just don't want to break the law, they say, because what we want is inconsistent with the constitution we have to work with.
To go to the
and
point.
This is why they want you people to support the 2024 draft rather than hold on to the 2020 draft.
Right, because the 2024 draft, the Barrow draft, will enslave this country and will give Barrow unprecedented powers in this country. And you know that whenever you give people those kind of powers, they will use it. And they will use it against you. And that constitution will never pass in this country. So that draft, rather. So he should know better than that. But why do you go to the point of enacting a law to abrogate a provision in the constitution to be able to prevent our people in the diaspora from voting? I mean, these are Gambians. You should go out to campaign, with them. Seek to bring them on your side. You don't just disenfranchise them because they think they are against you. You go there and campaign there and sell them policies that they will believe in and vote for you.
Mm-hmm. So tomorrow we have a vote. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but at one point I want to come back to push back a bit on what C.D. Cater said here on a number of, because there are a lot of falsehoods in what he said. So I think we will need some time to go back to that.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, C.D. Cater sat here where I was. I was watching him on YouTube with a whole array of documents here because these people are doing a lot of background work for him, I guess, which is normal. And he came here and sat here, told us, for example, that when Mega Bank was sold, they didn't know who bought Mega Bank. They just know it's something called KM Consortium. And he doesn't know who's behind KM Consortium. When did they do their due diligence? When you sell those sort of things, you're supposed to do due diligence to know who is buying, to make sure that you are not selling to drug dealers or some people who are doing money laundering, etc. You're supposed to do that due diligence. So how come he doesn't know who is buying Mega Bank? Nobody will buy that. If this doesn't know, then he's derelict in duty. 1. 2, Mega Bank was bought by the Gambia government in 2014 for $900 million.
900 or 600 million?
No, 900 million. Oh. And that's the thing, because they hide data. That's why people make mistakes. He was blaming Larry. How can you blame Larry when you hide the data from people? Ministry of Finance put in 600 million. Central Bank put in 300 million. They don't disclose information, so that's a total of 900 million. You put in 900 million in 2014 to buy Mega Bank. You restructure it. You take people from the Central Bank to run it. Central Bank people are sitting on the board of Mega Bank, and they turned it around. And he tells us, the Central Bank was the regulator. They were the regulator, but they sat on it, and I applaud that. They managed it and turned it around. And 9 years down the road, in 2023, you sell it for the same 900 million you bought it for 9 years earlier. In 2014, you buy it for 900 million. In 2023, you sell it for the same 900 million. 900 million in 2014 is not 900 million in 2023. The dollar has depreciated considerably. So that bank in 2023 should be worth at least $2.5 billion. Oh. So it was undervalued and sold to somebody who has walked away with a huge capital gains on that property. So that is wrong. It's a financial crime. They should never have sold Mega Bank. And that's, if you sell Mega Bank today and you don't know who is buying it, you are probably participating in money laundering, in drugs, drugs cartels, etc. We don't know who bought it, and he wouldn't tell us.
Those are serious allegations.
Exactly. And he, as Minister of Finance, should never have sat here and told us that. So we can't. Getting information from this government is like going on a treasure hunt. I heard him talk about the currency swap, and he tried to sugarcoat it and make it look good. The currency swap, they are borrowing $75 million from Afrexim Bank. And he tells us, Afrexim Bank, oh, it's a public institution, international institution, we are shareholders. Yes, we are shareholders. So what? Doesn't mean that we don't do our due diligence and we will be careful. And this gentleman is doing things that nobody else is doing anywhere, and he sets himself as a trendsetter. No, he's not a trendsetter. It's because he is doing things that nobody else will do. Nobody in this continent mortgaged or recycled, as he call it, their assets to Africa 50. Only the Gambia did. Why? Nobody's going for the currency swap with Afrexim Bank. Only the Gambia. Why?
Why?
Because we are a poorly managed, poorly regulated, and corrupt country. These institutions they're out there to make money. Remember that Afrexim Bank is operating as a private bank, making money. Not like the African Development Bank, which is a development finance institution and which is giving concessionary loans. Afrexim Bank is not. It's operating as a commercial entity. Africa 50 is doing the same thing. They're out to make money, which is okay, because they were set up. African Development Bank was instrumental in setting those institutions up, because we needed additional funding to provide funding for institutions that can sustain commercial loans, which we cannot finance at the level of the ADB, because ADB, we have the private sector window, the concessional window, which is the ADF, African Development Fund, and the concessional window, sorry, the market, almost market one, ADB. So we don't have enough funding in all of those institutions to pay for some of the things we need to do on the continent. So we set up these institutions to come in and bring in private sector funding, to crowd in private sector, to be able to fund some of those activities. So they are out there to make money. Afrexim Bank, if they give us that currency swap, we will be paying nothing less than 15% on the $75 million loan. It probably will be somewhere in the region of 15 to 20%, in that region. Okay? So we will be paying that amount of money. So they will give us $75 million. This is how currency swaps work. And I thought he would explain that, but he didn't. So when they come here, they say, oh, no, it's difficult, it's complicated. Anytime somebody comes and tells you that who's supposed to be a technician, they're trying to bamboozle you. They should tell us, you are the technician, tell us what it is so that we understand. Currency swaps, we would take $75 million from Afrexim Bank. We will invest it in an Afrexim Bank facility. So Afrexim Bank gets back 75 million. And they give us the equivalent in dollars. So they will take the equivalent in dollars and buy bonds, NRA bonds, that we're going to use to construct roads. So that bond will be remunerated about 17% in that region. So we will have a huge amount of interest to pay on that loan. And I understand it's going to be about 5 years, right? From what Afrexim Bank and just after, he's not giving us the information, but the information we get from Afrexim Bank, it's going to be about 5 years or so, okay? And this is going to be the interest rate. The amount of money we are collecting, and he said the Afrexim Bank Dalasi bond will be kind of, I'm trying to avoid not using technical terms for the listeners to understand. Yeah. What he's saying is that that loan will be backed by money collected for the fuel tax in the Gambia. So you get $75 million equivalent in $75 million equivalent in dollars. We are looking at in excess of $3 billion. And you're going to have to finance that at 15, 17%. The amount of money you'll be collecting to finance that with the depreciation of the dollar, every year the amount of the fuel levy will go up to be able to maintain that payment. That's one thing. At the end of the 5 years, what happens? Because currency swap technically is usually between countries with the same kind of monetary stability, currency stability. So what you do is you start to hedge the exchange risk fluctuations. So a country in Europe borrowing the US dollar or the US borrowing euros, etc., the stability of the currency is almost the same. So just trying to hedge the exchange rate fluctuation. But when the dollar and the dollar see such huge parity, disparity rather, yes. And the fluctuation in the value of the dollar or the depreciation, there is no hedging of the currency fluctuation at the time of exchange. So we will have that amount of money, the $75 million. We will give it back to Afrexim Bank to invest in an Afrexim Bank facility. Afrexim Bank can use it. And we get the $75 million equivalent in dollars, which we use. And we will pay 15 to 17% interest on that. Okay?
Over what? Over 5 years?
Over 5 years. Okay. So when you pay that back, technically you have two options. You pay it back on a yearly amortization basis. So every year you pay a certain amount, but I don't think their budget can sustain that. So what they're probably going to do, if you do that, you pay less. The $75 million, if you do the annual amortization, we'll be paying somewhere between $20 and $30 million interest on the $75 million, which is already huge. But if you go the route, which is what we call the bullet payments, you keep the whole amount till the end of the 5-year period, where you pay back the entire amount plus the interest. We are looking at potentially anywhere from 40 to 45, $50 million on top of the 75. Whoa. So we're going to be losing a huge amount of money. Okay? These are the options we are looking at. And Syndicator wouldn't tell us that. And the reason why the government is not signing that is because if they sign that loan, it is a contingent loan. It's going to go worsen our debt situation, the debt overhang. And they cannot do that because the extended credit facility they are into with the IMF wouldn't allow them to do that. Okay. So they go to the capital markets, try to raise those funds. But it's still on us.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we've already exceeded our time. Just quickly, because I ran the report, there's going to be an election at the UTG tomorrow. The NPP has a students' wing. I mean, when is the UDP, coming up with a student wing?
Student wing?
Yes.
We have a student wing already.
Oh, you do?
We do.
Not a youth wing?
No, we have a youth wing and a student wing.
Ah, okay.
We have a student wing, and they are very active.
And there's going to be, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of, NPP, UDP rivalry on campus because, I mean, those are those are the future Lamin Mannehs and, Ibrahim Asilas and, and what have you.
Well, I hope that at that level, they would prioritize the student interest above the political interest.
I hope so.
I hope so. But but you never know.
That's good advice if it's advice you're giving.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not taking text messages, but this is a very interesting one. Good morning, Uncle Peter. I'm a regular follower of your coffee time. It would be interesting to invite Dr. Ismail Cisse and Uncle Lamin Manneh on the same day so that we can set all these. So that we can set all these, one come say this, the other come say that on one topic. Well, Ibrahim Asila dared to challenge Lamin Manneh to a debate. We all know how that one went. Yeah. Do you want to throw the gauntlet or you are waiting for Dr. Ismail Cisse to do?
No, when we have somebody who's prepared to talk the truth to the country, not people who are spending it. I don't want to spend my time trying to debunk people who spend all their time just spinning. It's not true. That is unproductive. Bring me somebody serious. Syndicator wants to talk, I'll be here.
Okay.
The Minister of Justice wants to talk about the polymetallic nodules that they are, giving out. I will be here to talk.
This is about undersea,
deep sea mining.
Deep sea mining. Yes.
Deep sea mining. If I can just quickly say something about that.
Just 1 minute, because the native people are waiting to come in.
The Gambia has signed the United Nations Conference on the Law of the Sea.
Yes.
I studied international law. In 1982, the Gambia signed the International UN Conference on the Law of the Sea and ratified it in 1984, I think October 84, right? And in 1996, the Deep Sea Authority was established. And we are automatically, all those who are members of the UNCLOS, that's the United Nations Conference on the Law of the Sea, are members of the Deep Sea Authority. And the Gambia and that was in 1996, headquartered in Jamaica. And this is a rule-based institution where we try to make sure that the deep sea mining is going to happen there. Within the territorial waters, exclusive economic zone, and in the international waters are going to be seriously regulated to avoid environmental damage. And we do not see anything like that happening. Norway is signing this agreement with the Gambia. Norway is the only country to have so far accepted to go into deep sea mining. but they're not doing it in their own country. They're coming to do it here. After what we see happen in Sanyang, around Sanyang, the environmental destruction and degradation, if they go into our deep sea, we will have the same kind of destruction and degradation, and we are supposed to...
This is in relation to the Norwegian-Gambian company that has been given the rights to...
Right, and we don't even know who is doing it. Again, same thing, no due diligence. We don't know who is doing it, what are the terms. No environmental and social impact assessment studies have been conducted. Everything is done just haphazardly. You have money, come. Anybody who has money to invest, we accept you. We don't do any due diligence. We don't check anything. I would want to sit here with the Minister of Justice to tell us how they went about the due diligence on this. With the Minister of Environment and the Minister of Finance, I would do that. Not CC. I'm not going to do people who are just spinning. People who have facts to discuss, I would want to sit here and discuss with them. And we break down that law of the sea, how it affects the Gambia, what are our obligations, what we should be talking to Senegal and Cape Verde, because when we signed the Law of the Sea Treaty in 1984, we started discussing with Senegal and Cape Verde about how it's going to affect us, and now we should be doing these sort of things. Okay. These are the areas we should be looking at.
Fantastic. Lamin, I'll work on it. I'll talk to Alaji Dauda Ejalo. I'll talk to Sidi Keta. Who is the other one?
Minister of Environment.
Minister of Environment. Okay,
let's talk to those people.
We'll talk to all of them. Yeah. And if any one of them agrees, we'll bring you together here.
Wonderful.
Like we brought you here with Ibrahim Asila. And hopefully we'll have a more civil exchange on the occasion.
Thank you.
Lamin, thanks for coming. I can say you went to the wrong school, though. That's Lamin Manneh of the UDP. That brings us to the end of the program today. Thank you very much for the pleasure of your company. And join me in thanking Jah Oil and Wave for sponsoring our appearance on YouTube.
Excellent jam, si Wave.
Yo, apply. Yo, luta do dede. Luta mo nulo jël moto nga andil ma xaalis. Hello?
Busel mu fine.
What?
Busel mu fine.
Oh, yes!
Wave Accina Gambia. Deposit and withdraw money, pay bills and buy mobile credit without fees. Transfer money wherever in the country for only 1% fee. Ak Wave. Busel mu fine. Wave. Your money is yours.
Jah Oil. The company have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jah Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.